So we're gonna get going. First, just because I got you two guys, can we get some names? So, okay. All right, and are you? Come on in. Come on in. Are you? You get to do special, okay? I'm doing a presentation just for you. Are you game devs? Are you students? Are you looking for a job? Oh, nice. UX designers. Okay, well, you were in for a good talk. So I will probably stay away from the code part of this, and then we'll just go. And then, I was just saying. So are you a dev, UX designer? Good. Okay, fantastic. You came to the right place. So, okay, so we'll do no code, but we'll kind of start with, so first I kind of like, this is an abbreviated version if you haven't seen, you haven't seen my GDC talk earlier? Perfect, okay. So this will be a super abbreviated version of that. So first, I want to talk about kind of a special year. So this is when I got my start in the games industry. And in 2008, I made games, and I won one of these things. And by the way, if you guys have not done so, you definitely want to go to the IGF Awards show. It's an experience. So that's happening later today. And then I got talked to by a bunch of people. And also in 2008, the App Store happened. And when the App Store happened, this was kind of what life was like. Like, it was pretty good. So for me and a lot of other people. And we had our blue ocean, and then unfortunately what happened was that blue ocean quickly turned into bloody waters as the App Store got crowded. But it was okay. Not all hope was lost, because although mobile was where everybody was going to, the PC actually came to save us all. And once again, we were happy times. But it wouldn't last, because unfortunately, darkness would descend on the land because the sharks would come back. And over 7,000 games have released on Steam this last year. That's crazy. So a decade ago, it used to be that if you built a good game, or actually, to be honest, if you built an average game, you could get to the top of the App Store. Now, not true. Now, if you ship a great game, if you win one of those IGF awards, you might not sell very many copies. And that's the reality. You can make a great game, but there's going to be 100 different Battle Royale great games out there too. And so that's kind of the thing that I'm trying to go fix. And the way we're trying to fix it is with live streaming. And so do you guys watch live streams at all? Like, what's your background? A little bit? Okay, so live stream, and as marketing, I hope that you know a little, okay, cool, you know a little about influencers. So influencers are really, really important, and because what they do is they allow us to apply this spotlight to the work that you're doing. And when you said that you're a UX designer, is that in the games business? Okay, yeah, so it's super important, like, because right now, it's not about selling the customer who gets to your store page. There's a really good interview that Campo Santo was doing where most people, like, even for his, like, he's got Firewatch, which is an amazing game. Most people have not heard of that, like even heard of that game, which is crazy to think about. So it's really about this top of the funnel. People aren't even getting to top of the funnel. And influencers, if you're not a big studio and you don't have $500 million to spend on marketing, influencers is kind of it. You know, it's kind of the way that you have to go. So Mixer was founded by influencers. This guy's name is Lachlan. I work with him. And that's one of the cool things about, so I work on Mixer if you haven't noticed. And one of the cool things about Mixer is we were founded by influencers, and so we understand them very, very well and what they want. And Lachlan tells a story that I want to share with you guys, because I think it's really insightful, and it will help you think about how influencers think, so you can reach them better. And so, like all good stories, it starts in the beginning of time. There was YouTube. And YouTube was cool because Lachlan could post a video, and then what would happen, people would comment on the video, and then he posts another video. And it allowed him, because he was working a job, he was, I forget what he was doing, but then he got to quit, do full time and make videos. And he got up to 2 billion subscribers on YouTube making Minecraft videos. But the problem was, he had this delay of 2 days between his audience and his crowd saying something and then him reacting to that. And then comes along a company called Twitch. And Twitch does this genius thing where they take the video and they take the comments and they do this. They put them together. And what that allows him to do is now he can talk with his audience. But at the time, and I actually worked with Twitch in the early days, the delay was actually 2 minutes. So it was like, it was around a minute or 2 minutes. And so what that means is, take a multiplayer game that maybe lasts like 5 minutes and you get a cool headshot and you comment and say, wow, that was a really cool headshot. Well, you probably died and are in the next like match, so you have no idea what I'm talking about. And so that's not great. But hey, then comes along Mixer to save the day. And so Mixer pioneered a low latency, sub-second, near real-time delay. So there's basically no delay. It's the same thing as you guys talking to me. And so like, we're in the same room. And this now allows Lachlan to talk together with his audience and have a deeper connection. And if you talk to a lot of influencers, that's where a lot of influencers will say why they like Mixers, because they have that really intimate connection with their audience. Okay, so it's not just chat spam emojis. It's like it's a two-way thing going on. But Lachlan has this problem. Lachlan has this problem that he has to stream for 8 hours a day, 12 hours a day. And I don't know about you guys, but it's really hard to be entertaining for me. I have like 20 minutes and I gotta entertain you guys. I cannot imagine doing it for 8 to 12 hours every single day. I would run out of content. And so what he did was he'd have to practice. So the games that you work on, he's going to prepare, he's going to practice, he's going to know where the jump scare is, so that when that jump scare happens, he can fall out of his chair. He's acting, but he falls out of his chair so the audience can say, oh my God, where did he go? And he has that moment, so he's trying to create these moments for his audience, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to do that. But because the latency is so low, you can actually play with him. You can actually play with the streamer. And that allows him, rather than acting, he can just naturally react to what's going on, because you're just now playing together. And so he's got this connection with people who otherwise the barrier to chat is super high. Like you go look at the average stream, a small percentage of people are chatting. Most people are lurking. Why? Because I'm not a witty person. I got to think of something. Do I want to say hi? Like, well, I mean, it's very hard. I got to think of something to say. So, but anybody can play together. It's a lot lower barrier to entry. And when we think about interactive, the cool part about it is when we have the ability to play together, we can actually think as designers, as game designers, how do we actually use that to think about these viewers as players? And so like if I told you that 70% of your audience is going to be experiencing your game, experiencing your experience through a web browser and not through a controller, would you think about designing that experience differently so that 70% of your audience could have a good time? Right? You would. So this is something where it's not just Mixer. It's a small world, like very, very good friends with my friends over there at Twitch and other places. And like this is like an industry thing that's happening. So this is a trend where we're moving from passive viewing into active playing. And it just kind of intuitively makes sense. And so right here in this presentation, you should be thinking that whether it's 1 year from now or 2 years from now, if you're not thinking about this for a game that you're designing today, you're probably going to get left behind with the trend that's coming out. So whoops, this is ignore that. That was for my last presentation. So the power of live, like I like this picture because the analogy I use is, let's say I go out into some remote part of the forest and I'm hiking, and I set up 2 sticks and I kick a ball through it. I'm doing the same thing as these guys are doing. They're just kicking a ball through some sticks. But this one matters, and mine doesn't. And the reason why is all these people watching. And that's something that we're noticing on Mixer, is that there's the game, and then there's all this conversation and stuff happening outside the game. And that when you achieve something in the game, or you beat a boss, or you do something special, if you're by yourself in a basement, I mean, it's cool, it's exciting, but when you have a bunch of people watching you do that, then it has meaning. And that's what that's about. So that's the power of live. Live is so powerful. People spend way, way more time on live than they do on VODs. Why? Because you don't know what's going to happen. And by you being here, and especially with low latency, you can affect the outcome. And if you try to affect the outcome, then you want to stay to see what happened. And here's some data. So I can't share like the numbers because it's a partner, and I would not share that partner's data, but you get the gist with the curve. So this is a game that's been out for years, and it kind of had flatlined, and then there's a spike, and this spike honestly, like when we look at it, it kind of looks like when we have a game launch, but it was not a game launch. What happened here was the game added interactivity features, and then this happened, and you might, well, that's interesting, and we've seen this curve actually with a lot of games, and the reason why is because remember, as a game developer, you're trying to target these influencers and streamers, and so the best thing you can do is give them great content to make great streams. And so what happened with this game was it added interactivity, and so now suddenly the game becomes popular again because there's this new content that the streamers can go share with their audience. And so that explains what happens there. Here's a game called Death's Door, which you probably haven't heard of, but this is a game from the ground up. It's actually only played via Mixer, and so it's a choose your own adventure style game. And so what you do is you see an eerie passage to the right, and there's shrieks coming, or silence to the left. Where do you go, right or left? And so that's the game. And by the way, for those games, you never choose the silence because you're gonna die. It's that's bad. There's like something waiting out there. But anyway, so that's the game. And I think had this game launched on Steam, I don't know, it might have gotten lost, but because it launched on Mixer and it had this interactivity, it got picked up, and I think after about a month or so in that kind of ballpark. But like 1 million views, like that's big, that's huge. And so like there's real power here. And those are a couple examples. So what I want to show you, just to kind of ground it, is I want to show you a game that does interactive to get you a sense of like what it could be. So we'll switch over to that video. All right, so this is a game called Hyper Sentinel. It did well on Kickstarter. It integrated Mixer into a special mode. So it's a twin stick shooter, and what you're seeing here is there's buttons that appear below the stream, and the viewers can create asteroids. So you're just spawning asteroids, and when they do so, their name actually appears on the stream. And they can also control this, because the latency is so low, they can control this thing's called a mixeroid, and it can attack the player. And so one of the viewers is controlling that character. And they're creating rockets, they're spawning enemies, they're dropping power-ups. And the coolest part about this thing is everything you're seeing, the whole level, is driven by the audience. So if there's no audience, it's just a ship in space. But when viewers come in, you get asteroids, you get missiles, you get power-up, so every playthrough is different, and it's based on the people watching. And so it's this really, really new thing that Hyper Sentinel has done. So now I want to talk about some of the things that Hyper Sentinel does well. So the first thing they did well in the video, and this is like, these are some of the design lessons that we started to learn. So the number one is viewer attribution, and so that's if somebody does something, they want their 15 seconds of fame. And so it's a small thing, but just showing the person who did it. So if I spawn an asteroid and it kills the player, showing my name, so-and-so killed me, that allows the broadcaster to have a conversation with somebody who maybe never would have chatted. So that's a really big deal. And then we're starting to see this like help versus hurt mechanic. So in Hyper Sentinel, it's divided into attackers and defenders. And so helping makes a lot of sense because streamers are trying to build community. So if you give me ammo, then great, I like you a lot because you gave me ammo, you helped me win. But it can work the other way where if there are trolls out there who they just want to troll, and so this gives them something to do. But the more important thing is you just got to think about balance. So Hyper Sentinel spent a bunch of time thinking about game balance, a whole lot of time. And so what they do is, just like in traditional game design, it is easier in the beginning of the game to spawn the power-ups, and you have a limited number. And then later on in the game, it becomes easier for the attackers to spawn bigger and bigger enemies. So it becomes hard. The game actually naturally becomes harder. And there are these interesting design choices where maybe you only get three health upgrades as a viewership that you have to share, and one invincibility shield that is time limited. And so you have to think about, do I use it now, or do I wait because I know it's going to get harder? But if I wait, they might die and I can't use it. So like the viewer actually has like deep gameplay that they actually have to think about. And then rewards is the idea of that, like if I do something, it's progression. So you want to, just like with any game, you want to have the notion of progression, so I keep playing. And so for Hyper Sentinel, after every round, every 2-minute round, I get further on a leaderboard. And that leaderboard, so I can get to the top of the Hyper Sentinel leaderboard for that stream. And then making sure that there's replayability. So they've got these short kind of loops, but there's a real game loop there. Like it's not just like click and confetti or like, it's not a gimmick. There's a real like game loop that kind of repeats, and I want to come back to. And the last one is kind of subtle. They've thought about how to scale from small streams all the way to big streams. And the way they do that is on a small stream, if I press asteroid or I press one of the power-ups, that just happens. On a bigger stream of greater than some number, a certain percentage of the audience has to actually press that in order for it to happen. So a progress bar kind of appears, and then the power-up shows up. So that's how they scale. And then what they also do is they purposely divide the audience so it's always balanced. And so they've got attackers and defenders, and the game will make sure that there's not too many attackers, not too many defenders, so that the balance is just right. Here's another game I want to show. It's called Next Up Hero. And Next Up Hero, just to kind of set the stage for you guys, Next Up Hero is kind of like an arcade-style game that harkens back to the old days of arcades, where really, really tough game. And we're going to have a few things. So each viewer gets to cheer for two sides. There's the DIRGE, which are the enemies, and the heroes, which are the protagonists. And you can cheer for either side, and this becomes important later. And then you can also spawn these echoes, which are fallen heroes that are underpowered, but they can aid the hero in attacking other enemies. And so every viewer gets this screen, and so they can vote for whoever they want. But the cheers are important because the cheers can be spent later by these commander roles. And so you can spawn shadows as well. They'll attack the player. And it's all real time, so like you click it, it happens instantly. And not shown here, but your name would appear above so that you'd see it. And then here's the commander mode. So in commander mode, I have up to, let's say, tens of echoes. And then I can play this real-time strategy game on top of a twin-stick shooter game and tell these echoes to go attack that guy, go attack that guy. Or sacrifice yourself to summon this thing called an ancient. And an ancient just like wipes out everybody. So, and in order to do each one of the actions, I need to have cheers. So that's where cheers come into play, is I need to convince people to give me cheers so I can do these actions. And then here's the DIRGE. So the DIRGE can do things as well, but they also need cheers. And so there are these two commanders playing against each other to try to win the metagame. And so there's a couple others that you can stun, you can freeze, like... Let's see, we'll stop this here because I'm running out of time. So, one of the things I did want to kind of end with... So, a couple things I kind of want to take away from this is that... these games, a lot of people ask me, they say like, oh, well, so these things designed with Mixer from the ground up. But actually they didn't. Like, both of these experiences came to us with finished games and added Mixer. Because if you think about, if you work on games, we all have debug hooks, we all have like test code, like things like that. And actually all this stuff uses existing functionality they already had. A lot of us have a co-op mode, things like that. And so this gameplay that you're seeing actually reuses and kind of reassembles functionality that the game already had in a really interesting way that creates a whole new game and experience for the viewers. So in order to, around here I asked, nobody was a dev, but to give you an idea, we're trying really, really hard to make it easy. So my goal is that you can take your most junior developer, or even in some cases a non-technical person, and they can prototype and do something cool with interactive in an afternoon or over lunch. So that's kind of the goal of dev cost, and then you can do something like this. But then it kind of depends on what we do. So where I kind of want to end the presentation is with this right here, mixerdevinfo@microsoft.com. It's really, really important. Like, we're in the early days of this stuff. And so even if you just have a concept, and you want to run it by us to see, like, is this something that you guys would straight up fund? Is this something that, like, we could work with you on? We want to hear about it. So, like, it's super early, and so there's a real opportunity to have some great ideas and kind of be pioneers, and then for us to partner together, and then naturally, if you do something cool, then we're going to want to promote that and tell that story. So we definitely want to, like, nothing can hurt you by reaching out and sending out something if you got a concept. Thank you, for us to go take a look at. So I definitely encourage you, and I kind of leave you with this to just go think about this, and maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow, you'll come up with the concept. And just send us an email and let us know, and then we can kind of go from there. All right, thank you.